Okay, folks, I want you to draw your eyeballs to the screen because I am about to show you the latest spreadsheet. Come on with me, good folks, and I will come on down and have at it. Bam, here it is. Okay, what you're looking at right here, okay, is none other than my newest simple spreadsheet. This is the average debt service at 4.14% on the $750 million bond, okay? And that comes from, you say, where did I get that from? That's from here, all right? So I put 750 million there. Well, actually, that's 750. Well, it's actually 750 million, but I put 700 million there for this reason, all right? Because the Las Vegas Stadium Authority claims that they're going to have $50 million already, right? And that by the time they get ready to issue the bond as a pay-go, so they're going to use that up front. So it's really a $700 million bond and not 750. So I put it at 700 and at 700 million, okay? So so there we've got, 700 million there. Oops, excuse me. We put it back to where I had it. Okay. So anyway, that was 700 million there. Okay. And so at this interest rate of 4.14, it gives me this debt service. Okay. Now, if you're wondering where I got this from, you can go to Google and type municipal bond calculator .xls, which is a spreadsheet, right? Spreadsheet ending for Excel, and download it, and it'll give you this. And I modified it for my purposes. That's it. That's all I did, okay? Now, so we've got this number. This is what's called the monthly. I don't want to leave that nude out so you won't think I'm trying to snow you or something like that, right? This is the bond amount, right? 4.14%. I'm not paying attention to the interest rate sensitivity test right now. This is the monthly bond repayment, okay? Here, that's 3.398,65134, right? Okay? That's what that is, okay? And, of course, that 523 million is a total interest of the bond period, but that's secondary for this purpose. So there it is, right? That's the average debt service. Now, if a bond is said to be let with a 1.5 to 1 debt coverage ratio, it means that you have to have 1.5 times 1.5 times this, okay? 1.5 times that debt service needed, which is this, the monthly revenue needed to cover debt service at 1.5 times debt service. That's 5,997,977.01, right? Now, this is the actual monthly revenue for each month from March all the way down to October that has been taken in. What you see in red, folks, for each month, there has been a deficit, not a surplus. That's right. Look at that. And the total is this. They are at a negative 6,351,772. All negative, as Ray Real just pointed out. All negative, okay? All negative. Now, they haven't floated the bond, but the whole point is that they've already collected the tax. So what this is this is a test of the stadium hotel tax revenue stream because they're already collecting the money, okay? So if you're going to float a bond, say, okay, well, there it is, right? There is that bond issue at 30 years. Hold on a second, okay? Deficit. Now, all right? The actual debt coverage ratio, remember this. It's supposed to be 1.5 to 1, right? This is it. This is it for each month. Look, it has never been 1.5, and the average is 1.07. 1.07 to 1, okay? All right. Here's where things get even more hairy, okay? Let's say now the bond issue, the tax is being collected over a 30-year period and then it stops, right? So we have our annual interest rate bond period in years at 30. But S&TIC actually has the bonds going out to 38 years. Let's change this to 38 and see what we get. 38. Bam, okay? Well, it says the bond period must be 1 in 30 years. Ah, okay. It's not letting us even do a 38. Could I do 40? In this one, I have to modify it. See, I'm going to have to modify it, okay? This is important, all right? Because even if I modify this so that the debt service is lower, I want you to see something. Let's say that this was at $3 million. If it was at $3 million, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that 3 million times, okay, look at this. Let's say if I just put this at 3 million, right? Let's go back here. 1, 2, 3. 3,000, 30,000, 300,000, 3 million. Boom, 3 million, okay? And there, right there is my monthly revenue needed to cover, right? That's at 3 million, okay? But look, I have 1 year of a surplus and the rest are still at deficits. You see that? They're still at deficits. And the actual debt coverage ratio only tops 1.5 once, okay? So what does this tell us? It tells us, I'll tell you what it tells us. It tells us we're being lied to. You heard me. We're being lied to. That, I mean, there's only two ways to go with this. Either the stadium authority is incompetent or they're lying to their own board and to the public. They are already short what they need. And even if I reduce that to, 3 million from what you saw, that implies an extending out of years of the bond issue. But even at $3 million per year, I'm still at a deficit. I am still at a deficit, which means they're not bringing in enough money to cover a bond issue of the size that they want to with a stadium tax. And note what I did. That's with, okay, all this is with a $700 million issue. That's considering the $50 million already. They're in trouble, folks. They are in trouble. And they won't tell you. They're lying. This is not even with a tax bill. This is right now. This is right friggin' now. So there's your bad news right there. All right? And again, my point is this. If Oakland is going to lose the Raiders, let it be to an effort that's competent. You heard what I said. Competent. And this comes from not just my planning background, but I'll tell you something. Okay? I'll tell you something. They really got me on this. This goes way the frick back to 1988. And I met the then members of the Port Authority Board of Commissioners of New York and New Jersey. Those people knew their stuff. And as a young planning student, when I think of competent bureaucrats, I think of them. Okay? Now, some of you might say later, hey, didn't some of those folks under Christie do X, Y, and Z? Allegedly, some of them, but not all of them. But I'm talking about not how they manipulated the bridge, which you could, from an entirely other perspective, applaud their ability to understand how to move the levers of government to screw somebody, okay? Because that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Put that aside. The level of competent bureaucracy was second to none in New York and New Jersey among the Port Board. And that had a major impact on how I think board members and board staff should conduct themselves. And so I am livid with this stadium authority. They are not there at all. And I don't care what anybody says to me about, oh, Zinni doesn't know or whatever. They're afraid to produce their numbers and prove me wrong for whatever their psychological reason is. But if they did prove me wrong, it would be to their benefit. But I don't see how they're going to prove me wrong. These are their numbers. And a lot of these numbers, okay, these estimates are things that anyone can do. You can do it. So yeah, I'm massively, thank you, Malcontent, thank you very much. I am massively pissed off. And I've had this in the back of my mind for a while, but I have finally had time to really sit down and figure it out, right? Okay? This is bad. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. I was on such a rant, I kind of left my moorings for a bit there. Let me go and read it back. Hey, Wiggle Babies, welcome. Steve Macy says, after the vote, oh, Della Reese, rest in peace. Oh, I meant to vlog about that. That's Hyde. And yeah, Della Reese, Red Fox, Richard Pryor, all great human beings, absolutely. And Raider Al says, Mark is looking for a way out. I'm only guessing. Why else would he set himself out for failure unless he has ties with bankers who can bail him out? But how? I mean, no, look, Bank of America's Elliot McCabe has said that he is not going, that Bank of America is not going to cover cost overruns or operating losses. Oh, and something else too, I believe, and I need to get confirmation on this, that the GOP tax will just be a tax, but it won't prohibit Clark County from floating the bond, okay? It'll just make it more expensive. So the Raiders won't have to worry about the stadium being used as a backstop, which will, yes, lower the interest rate, but even then, Stephen Hill was wrong. It's not a $3 million annual cost at all. It's more like a $5 million annual cost because he said they assumed 1/2 of 1%. It's actually 1%. At 1%, you've already seen the numbers. They're low. They're bad. They're in deficit. Not going to work. So Persno says, "What are we learning, Professor?" Wriggle Baby says, "Oh, they're lying. No way they're that incompetent." Exactly. Yeah, rest in peace, Della Reese, as Crawford just said. Now, Steve Macy writes, after the vote, you asked someone about the debt-to-ratio numbers, and he said, not now, Zinni. Have you ever talked to him about that since? I tried, but they're afraid to talk to me. I've tried more than once. They're always afraid to talk to me, you know? But they'll say to somebody else, I don't know what I'm talking about, and yet they're afraid to face me in a room with numbers and go over them and explain why. And the problem is that it gives me an opportunity to hone and refine what I do. So I'm really primed to just get up and say, all right, here's the problem. And I'm public about it, as Malcontent knows, and I'm willing to, you know, if I make a mistake, I'll make an adjustment here and there because I like to have other eyeballs looking at what I do. Unlike them, they don't want any other eyeballs looking at what they do because they don't want anyone to criticize their little deal, which really isn't so little. It's putting the public at risk. It really is, okay? So, Wiggle Baby says, how can they ever do this Vegas deal? How can they even do it? Because there's no sunshine, you know? They've even designed it in that they can keep certain financial information from the public. It's right there in black and white, folks. I'm not kidding you. It's right there in SB1. And so Crawford says UNLV is waiting in the wings. Can they get a stadium with? They can get a stadium with bonds. They can. Malcontent says good analysis, Zinni. Thank you very much. And Malcontent says this is much worse than I thought, and it's about as worse as I feared.